Okey dah. Ulang ni. Nanti dekat sekejap mana YouTube ni. Buka YouTube. Ya. Dia akan keluar gini dulu lah. Hingga nanti go start. Dia start nanti baru ni.
Ada tutup
Yang
tu.
ni.
Tu ada kita baru sampai.
Yang tajuk Hana tu how to write an article kan?
Ini lah dia. Ini dah how to write an article.
Tak, buat yang ni.
Sharing session.
Bukan yang ni. Sekejap. Kita takut link dia lain tau.
Tapi tadi kita buka link yang sana kan?
Kita takut link dia lain.
Lepas tu kalau link lain macam mana?
Kalau link lain nanti kena betulkan dekat kalender. Kena masukkan.
Masukkan sekarang je lah. Sebab yang aku dah tengok dah ada 4 waiting ni. Macam mana? Macam mana kan?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Tan Sri, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you? Sorry, I'm late. The
Yeah,
Turkish ambassador just left, so uh, uh, I don't know what excuse to give, but anyway, he just left. So here am I. So what are we doing today, Mira?
Okay, so we will be having trainings on the topic writing articles for how to write an article for media, newspaper, and magazine. Okay, so let me start the session, Tan Sri. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all participants, Tan Sri, Dato, professors, associate professors, doctors, brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana li hadza wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadana Allah. Thank you so much for your participation in today's event. It is our great pleasure to have our esteemed speaker, which I believe need no further introductions. Our leader, our rector of Iium, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Zulkifli Abdul Razak, in our training session today. And just to give everyone a little rationale of the program, especially if any one of you asks why CPD has a program on article writing for newspaper. Why not just focus on the role of academicians, which is teaching and learning? So our answer to that questions would be, we believe that our role as academician is not only in the class, but it's also in the masyarakat, which is in other words, community. And the ability to translate our knowledge into something that would be able to transform the community into better conditions is another critical skills which I think all of us should have, be that academicians or non-academician. Hence, we believe that the skills and knowledge that we're going to gain in this today's sessions is a very important skills that all academicians, again, or non-academicians should possess. And we are truly grateful. Thank you so much, Tan Sri. In your busy schedule, you still make the time to meet all of us today and share your knowledge in how to write articles for the media. Hence, without before we start the session, to add the barakah to our session, let's start with Al-Fatihah. Amin ya rabbal alamin. And hence, without further ado, I would like to call for our esteemed speaker, Tan Sri Zul, and the session is yours. Thank you.
Okay, I am a little bit nervous now because I thought it will be just a small group of people, you know, chit-chatting over things that I have done over the 25 years, now more than 25 years, yeah. But now I see a lot of people on the screen, so I don't have any slides because I don't know how to do this in a slide form. But let me just narrate to you some of the things that I've gone through, and maybe raise questions. I think raising questions is better than telling this, because there's no hard and fast rule. This I went through an experience of my own and see whether it works. But alhamdulillah, it lasted for a quarter of a century, so I think somehow or other it works. I want to start off by the motivation of writing. Yeah, I'm a science student. Science students are really very nerdy. Yeah? We don't write anything which is not quote unquote scientific. We write something that is very hard and normally very dry and sometimes also very boring. But when I was challenged by somebody who said that, you know, Malay students do not write for English newspapers, that was a kind of can hardly hear. Dia kata dia tak boleh nak dengar sangat apa ni. That was a kind of a challenge that I got. They say budak-budak Melayu tak pandai tulis dalam bahasa Inggeris, you know. So then I was already a lecturer in USM, and I took it upon myself just to disprove this particular person that we can write if we want to write, you know. And I thought it was easy, but that was the motivation. The motivation was to prove this particular person wrong. So if you ask me about the motivation, it was nothing to do with trying to be a public intellectual and all those nice words. It was just, it hurts me. It hurts my what you call being as a lecturer then in USM, that are not being able to deliver. At that time, I think English was very much the medium of instruction, unlike today. So we are supposed to do that. So that was one. Secondly, I think I was also on a job. I was given this National Poison Center. National Poison Center was a center of referrals of people who have problems, will call the center for 24 hours, 24/7. For example, if you take a medicine and then you got allergy and you do not know what to do with it, you call the center and the center will advise you exactly what to do. You know, so that center, I think, is an important center that conveys information to the public, and of course the telephone is one way of doing it. But I was just talking to myself, if I were to depend on the telephone, well, what about people who do not have telephones? You know, if I were to just wait for people to call, then there may be other issues that could have avoided if they know the information before, rather than being reactive. You got a problem, then you call, then you. But before that, how do I prevent this? So that, I think, couples with the challenge. If I can give them information right up front, then they will be able to avoid some of the issues, like using drugs wrongly or keeping it wrongly or whatever it is. What are the common information that people out there needs to know, particularly those who are not well educated? So that again gives me another motivation to do it. All right. So with that in mind, I start this endeavor. But like I say, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because, to start off with, we were constrained to only no more than 800 words. If we talk about column, by definition, it is no more than 800 words. So whatever you want to say, you don't have the liberty of writing as you like, and in the thesis or whatever it is. So that is the first idea. That's the first constraint that I face. So how do you write anything and everything in 800 words? And that's about it. So that means that you need to be very, very focused over what you want to say. You need to be very, very concise. What is a message that you want to deliver? All right. And the choice of word. Luckily, I think Bahasa English is not like Malay. Malay tends to be a little bit, elaborate in saying things. But in English, you can cut it short and make it concise. So that helps. But that means also you must have a good range of vocabulary that can pick words that is really very concise and very precise and focused to give that information. That is my handicap. I'm not a language person, so that needs some sort of a training, some sort of reading and expand your vocabulary. So dictionaries, thesaurus are important. That's right. So once that is done, I think you need now to really focus on what is it that you want. What is it that you want to do? So my experience in writing the first column, as it were, it wasn't a column then. I thought it was just an article published frequently. It wasn't a column. In other words, no regularity as it happened today. It takes me at least about 4 to 5 days to write an 800-word article. I mean, I felt it's a waste of time. In 4 days, you need only to write 800 words. It's difficult, but it is difficult. It is difficult to concise it. So what I do was basically to write it as I write it, and then start to edit it. First edit in the sense of content. Make sure that all the content that I want is there, and then edit it in the sense of number of words. How many words can I reduce so that I can come up to the 800 words that it is, And third one is, of course, to edit it in the context of English, the language. Yeah. So you have to do this the editorial work. And I mean, as an academic, I thought it wasn't what was it? Melayunya kata berbaloi. Yeah. It's not rewarding because at the end of the day, who reads the 800 words and no marks, no KPI, no KPI, no Myra points, nothing. It's just a matter of writing, you know. But what again and encourages me, just if I get the first article out, then I receive a lot of feedbacks. People will write back to you. People will give their opinion. People will ask more questions. I think that's the third motivation that comes in. The response that you get from people that you think will not be bothered with your writing after toiling over difficult days, and suddenly the response that comes in is something that you feel you are being appreciated. People actually wants to talk to you, and it's, in a way, it is better than journal article. You write journal article, you publish in whatever impact factor, but nobody writes to you. Nobody even say that they read your article, things like that. So this one is a motivation that I've got. People write to me, and I begin to understand what is the problem out there. The discussion, the what you call the sometimes the argument that we have over the article that I wrote. Then I think that gives the third motivation of people responding to you, and you become a little bit more conscious of what's happening around you. So as an academician, I feel I am wanted, not just being siloed in my office, and I don't have interaction with people outside my community. That I think is the third motivation for writing. What happens then, I think, from that article, then the number of phone calls that come into the poison center increases. So a lot more people wants to talk to you rather than just listening or writing to you. At that time, there was no internet. That time, there was no this sophisticated thing. You need to really do the work on your own. You use TPEX and everything that is wrong. I mean, I do the typing, no computer, nothing. It was really hard. So it tests your patience in a way. But then people will call you because they want to listen to actually real explanation, and the number of calls goes up in the National Poison Center. And how it is important. For the National Poison Center to receive funding, they want to find out how many actually people use the service. So the number of people calling the center becomes an important indicator. If I can show them, for example, this month, maybe 300 or 400 people call, out of 400 people call, maybe we save 4 or 5 lives, then the funding that comes from the government will commensurate that. So that is the fourth motivation for me to move into this. So from that, I decide, okay, I'm going to write frequently. Even then, there wasn't a column. I say, as I'm free, I will write. And then the newspaper people sense that this is an important venture, and they offered me, can you write a weekly column? A weekly column. I was ambitious. I thought it was easy. I say yes, but it is a nightmare. Okay, why is a nightmare? Because you are really to have a very, very disciplined. In other words, if my column comes up from right now, for example, I've got 2 columns, one in Utusan and one is in NST. The Utusan one will appear on Thursday, so my article must be in by Tuesday, so that they can do some editorial work on Wednesday and publish it on a Thursday, right? My NST one, it will come out either Monday or Tuesday. Then I must get it in by Sunday, by hook or by crook. My weekend is gone. Sunday means finish. I have to write this column that it will send, and then they will publish it either Monday or Tuesday, and the other one. So that discipline, I think, is a difficult task, because at that time I'm also a young academic. I've got a family to look after. I also want to enjoy life at the same time, shopping, blah blah blah, and then the Sunday and things like that. This really take your time to make sure that your article comes in, because the moment you are not frequent, they will cut off your column, and that's the whole thing. So that discipline, I think, is the one that is more difficult to live by, rather than article. So that is the behavioral part, I think, and the motivational part that puts me into this. Now, the other thing is that I think I want to share with you is, how do you write this article? How do you plan? Maybe people will ask, how come is it every day that you have something to say, or every week you have something to say? And then this time I got two things to say: one in Bahasa Malaysia and one in Bahasa Inggris. That one, I think, is really a discipline of how aware are you with the environment. So when I mentioned to you that when they write to you, then it gives you an advantage of what is happening on the ground. And I think this is where I will agree with Mira, that we are totally lost. People in the university has no clue of what's happening on the ground until you interact with them. To me, this newspaper article, who people write to me, give me first-hand impression what is happening on the ground. All right? And what's happening on the ground will make you then read a little bit more and try to respond to them as they need to know. And that becomes, I think, the basis of you deciding what is happening, because you want to write something which is relevant. You don't want to write something because you want to write it. I like something. I like playing tennis, for example. My column today is about playing tennis. People don't care. Go to hell with your playing tennis, because they are not interested. They are interested in something else. They are interested in maybe toxicity of durian or something like that. Then you need to write about that, whether you like it or not. So you really need to adjust your interest into the interest of other people. I think that discipline is what I've got today. So when I talk too much about community, that is because of this, that I have a sense of what is happening on the ground that we academicians are not in touch with. We academicians are not, sensitive to the needs. Then I think we are not, quote unquote, serving the population in the knowledge that we've got. Yeah, I don't want to sound religious, but this is what I think Islam wants us to do: to use your knowledge for the service of other people. Right now, when we do this publication and we write, are we servicing the publication? The indications say maybe your journal article will be read by less than 500 people. Okay? But if you print in a newspaper, quite easily at least 1,000 people, if not 2,000 people, if not 1,000,000 people read it, depending on the circulation of the newspaper. That I think is enough in terms of this dia punya distribution. That gives me the satisfaction that we are reaching on people. Plus, if they respond to you, so those are the contingencies that I think we need to think of when you want to start writing the newspaper. The other way of looking at this is to capture on something which is very, very sensitive. I remember during my time there was a lead poisoning issue in one of the community, that people are dying because of lead poisoning. And the lead poisoning is something that I don't even know. That I do my research and I suddenly find out that in some of the water system at that particular place is loaded with lead that comes from the ground itself. The well water and stuff like that. In the ground there's already lead in it, and these people keep on consuming this lead, and suddenly they get into some toxicity, and some of them died. So those kind of issues that has community interest at that particular point in time is the one that helps you to build another database of interest as far as that is concerned. Now, then it would mean that you also needs to be very, very sensitive over what is happening around you, or sometimes what's happening around the world, because some of this poisoning happens somewhere else, but it is relevant to Malaysia, then we can use that as a information to preempt or to make sure that this do not happen. Right now, the other issue that I wanted to share with you is the context of writing. Now, if I were to mention, I need only 4 hours to write one article. Used to be 4 days. I now needs only about 4 hours to write one article. Now, the build up of that 4 hours needs to happen over a period of time. So, for example, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you will read my article on Tan Sri Wan Zahid. Tan Sri Wan Zahid passed away. It wasn't planned. Tan Sri Wan Zahid passed away, I think, on the 16th of September. I meant to write on something of Malaysia Day, which is the 16th of September. But I got to know that he passed away. That gives me another what do you call channel to write about who is Tan Sri Wan Zahid. So your options become broader as you also meet people and know who they are. So I'm going to write about him. In fact, I wrote about him. Hopefully it comes out on Thursday. That he is a person who actually created the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan. So I wrote about him, and I wrote about his contribution to falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan, the national education policy, and how actually it helps in moving education. And you go into the issue of where education is today without the falsafah pendidikan kebangsaan. So it gives you another interest, although you start with a person, but you build up the interest around what the community wants, and given that interest of that particular. So you learn how to make associations. You don't write just about the life history of Tan Sri Wan Zahid. People may not be interested. It's also very dry anyway. But what does he do, and how does he contribute to making education in this particular case relevant to us, and how else we can make it better given his contribution on that note. So those are the few things that I can share with you. But the actual doing it, I think, is basically, I've got this gadget with me that I take everywhere. That when I have time, I will write. So if you talk about a particular issue, I will write a very rough one, and then I will go back and polish it. And I think then by the third time I finish, it is ready for submission. Now, don't look at that one. I think that takes maybe 20 years to develop, to get into your own way of style of writing. But focus on the things that I say in the context of building interest, in the context of collating information, in the context of associating information with what is current and what is useful for the future, maybe. That gives you a kind of what you call a framework of mind that you need to work across. Yeah? Last but not least, I think there's also sensitivities to this. I started with New Straits Times. It went well until the 1MDB case came in. I started to write on 1MDB cases, so what I think it is. The newspaper editor does not like it, so he started to censor my writing. Now, all this while when I write, nobody does anything about it. They print verbatim. Whatever I said, they print verbatim. Even the title, they do not change. But this particular editor begin to change, some of the wordings. And when I asked him, he says, well, if you do this, maybe the government doesn't like it, some people may be offended, and he wants to make it good from his point of view. But I felt that was not good. This self-censorship is not something that I want to practice. And I quit from Straits Times. I think from the year 2015. I think I left the column, and I went to the Sun. The Sun sponsored me to do the column, and the Sun did everything. So you must also have that awareness that whatever you write sometimes do not get accepted, do not get published, depending on the sensitivity of the issues. So you must also know how to quote unquote moderate it in such a way that your article do not sound anti-government, anti-establishment all the time. It could be once in a while, but if it's anti-government and anti-establishment all the time, it puts the newspaper in its own difficulty to accommodate you. So when I left the Straits Times, and then when I joined this place in the year 2020, this new Straits Times editor came and invited me back. He said, "Can you start a column with the New Straits Times now?" So from then on, I think I'm already with them on a weekly basis, right? Now, the other regret that I have is when I write this, I didn't know the extent of this. Now, for every article, I can produce a book. I've got 7 volumes now of my articles being compiled into a book. So there is also that benefit of coming out with a book. You re-edit your article, compile it into subject matters, and then you can have books. So I'm working on my 8th and 9th book. Hopefully, I see Idayu there. Idayu is helping me with one. So that this can be a compilation that people can keep, because newspaper articles people do not keep. Yeah, and then the other one is one of my colleagues in Penang is building a database for all these articles, which is now, I think, if you write 52 articles in a year, you time that by 20, you can get a lot of articles. So they are trying to put it into what you call a database where they can search and so on and so forth. I think that's the later benefit once you have done this in that particular context. So the sensitivity of the issues is also important, so that you can be, you don't want to sound that you are a radical of some sort, yeah, but you are advocating some good values rather than trying to write a political or ideological story or something like that. In other words, you still maintain your academic independence. You don't want to be bought by political society or any ideological thing, which I think we academicians should remain neutral on that note. Okay. I would like to end by going back to what Mira said. So at the end of the day, with this experience, you want to become actually a public intellectual, in the sense that your realm is not just the university. Your realm is outside the university. Your students are not only the students of your classroom, your students of everywhere and anywhere. I think my column yesterday, day before yesterday, was to write about generic drugs. Now you must be thinking, why does Tan Sri wants to write about generic drugs? And this comes out of the report when the ex-prime minister was put in jail. Yeah. And because he was in jail, then he has got a problem. When he goes to the hospital, our hospital only gives generic drugs. Generic drugs are a cheaper version of the same drug that is sold under a brand. Panadol, for example, yeah, you buy 20 cents a piece. When you make Panadol at 0.3 cents, I repeat, one Panadol, when you make it under generic drug, is 0.3 cents per tablet. And under the brand Panadol, you sell it for 20 cents. How many fold of profit did you get? Yeah. So the generic drug means that you can buy the same quality of drugs at a cheaper price, then you can serve a lot more people. The statistics that I got, by using generic drug, you can save 10 million lives as compared to if you buy brand drugs, because it's expensive. Yeah. So in that argument, the prime minister, at least, or the lawyer, says no, because he's given a generic drug, so then you are mistreating him. He's a prime minister; he should get this most expensive drug. And my article is about, he's a human being, regardless prime minister or prime minister. His guts and my guts are the same. His stomach and my stomach is the same. Not the Prime Minister's stomach is better than my stomach. No such thing. So the medicine that I take and the medicine that he takes should be the same. You know, unless he's a robot and he takes a different medicine, that's fine. But if it's another human being, the generic drugs apply to everybody. So I want to make the point, for example, there's nothing to do with privilege. There's nothing to do with position. There's nothing to do with prestige in the choice of drug. Yeah, you could be a VIP, but the generic drug is as good for you as a beggar in town. That was the kind of explanation that so you get into issues of this nature to clarify, so that people now, when they read this article again, they will understand, oh, why the hospital give him a generic drug and not the not the branded drug. Not because we want to lower his standard or do not respect him, but that is the rule of the game, that everybody is treated similarly as far as healthcare is concerned. So you begin to comment on something of this nature that probably is not a common topic, but because it has a context, then I think it becomes a thing that you can write on. All right. So Mira, I will stop there. I would rather have a question and answers for those of you who wants to write, and if you can give me what is your issue, maybe I can try and answer it given my experience. But there's nothing like trying. If you just imagine that you want to write and you don't try, I think you can get discouraged. Write something, and post it. You maybe get rejected the first time because one or two reasons. But the moment you get to the hang of it, I think right now I will not be able to sleep if I don't finish my column. It's almost like a salat now, that salat must be done before I can sleep. Otherwise, I will not be able to sleep. And I will wake up early in the morning just to read my article again. I mean, that's a motivation that I have. Why do I want to leave again? I want to read my article that I write, and I want to listen to other people who has responded to my article. That is the glory of my life as far as writing is concerned. It gives you a sort of a satisfaction, although they don't pay you, but that is not the issue now. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Sorry if I sound rambling.
No, thank you so much, Tan Sri. Let me just recap a few points. I think there's a lot of important takeouts from what Tan Sri shared just now. So first, column is about 800 words. But before that, what is interesting is Tan Sri's motivations to start writing articles for newspaper in the first place, and then exploring the possibilities of writing, and column is one of the possibilities, which is around 800 words. The writing articles is also would actually enhance and expand the vocabularies, dictionaries, and this is one of the things that we also needs to have when we are writing the articles. Another interesting things that I take note here is that your persistence in writing 800 words have actually move you from, or give you the opportunities to actually write from initially it's around 4 days to write one articles. Now it's 4 hours to write one article. And just now, Tan Sri give a hint for those who are trying to write an article. Maybe you can start with writing and edit the idea first, then only you edit the language. Because I think if I have to write, usually I would focus on the language first, then the idea. But I think that what you mentioned is very important. So we should focus on the idea first, edit the idea first, then only we focus on the language. And learn from the feedback. This is another things that I took note, learn from the feedback. The opportunities of writing for mass media is that you will get a lot of feedbacks. And then this will become another motivations that it opens our perspective of the problems in the world. We write on the same time we learn. And then the impact of the articles. Just now, Tan Sri mentioned on Tan Sri's case, it actually gives the impact to the organizations that he wrote for. The numbers of people calling the poison center is increasing, but there's also things that we have to be aware with when it comes to the sensitivity of the issues, possibilities when it is not in line with the newspaper or magazine's interest. there's a possibilities that we might be rejected. But then again, what Tan Sri mentioned, don't give up. I think there's one book that I've read sometimes years ago, Reject Me, I Love It. So I think that's probably one of the things that I can learn from from your session, Tan Sri. So with that, I believe it opens a lot of questions. I really hope it opens and also motivates a lot of people to write. And let's open the sessions to any participants who would want to ask directly to Tan Sri.
I read this Haniki. Haniki was my student when I was
Oh,
in
yeah.
the School of Pharmacy. He's now in Kuantan. He make a comment here. Maybe you want to listen to him. How he actually sees my work evolve as a
Yes,
student at that
yes.
particular.
Prof. Haniki, please.
Haniki, you
He's
want to
my
say
mentor
something?
as well. Tan
Hi.
Sri.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'm on MC actually, so I didn't expect to say anything. I just wanted to share and acknowledge the fact that Tan Sri also mentored me to a great extent in writing to the media, because I feel our main flaw, especially my own flaw, is being too technical, and trying to go down to the level of the mass is sometimes difficult, because we tend to be using certain, at least in my field, clinical pharmacy, medical jargons, evidence-based. I'm more comfortable with that. So I learned from Tan Sri how to bring down and get the information to the public using terms and languages and words that are more understandable, and because we want to get the message across. So that's what I learned quickly from Tan Sri, especially on tobacco control, because majority of the people affected by tobacco controls are from the lower socio economic and education level. We want to target them, we have to use certain kind of language. But if you want to address the policymakers, it's different. We can still use this angle for using the media to address different stakeholders. So that's what I learned very quickly from Tan Sri, and still learning, if I may add, because we just had one article to the media, and Tan Sri provided us the opportunity to write regarding marijuana and for what you call that, medical cannabis. So it's going to be another hot issue. So I hope others can also join in and later bring up the social issues. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
Thank you, Prof. Haniki. As I said, he's also my mentor, so I learned so much from him, especially about tobacco. All right. Thank you. And I think we have a lot of questions now. Let me start with Dr. Abdul Hamid. Dr. Abdul Hamid, you may unmute your microphone, please. Thank
Can you
you.
hear me? Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Hi, Professor Abdul Hamid from Fiqh Department. MashaAllah, well done. You have encouraged us to be and to remain young scholars, young academicians. Alhamdulillah, we have benefited a lot from your presentation. Very informative, very encouraging. I just wanted to know, Prof, how have you, were you able to manage? I mean, you didn't want to repeat yourself. What you publish in NST is not published in Utusan. So how to maintain it? You don't write about the same topic, the same issue every week. A variety of topics and issues. What is published in NST is not like the same which is published in Utusan. So how to get these what you call the variety of topics and issues over maybe the last 20 years, despite the fact that you are so busy, hectic schedule. So how as a young scholar, having a family, so some of us are having administrative work to do. So how to manage it? It's not that easy. Thank you, bro.
Okay, there are many ways of doing it. So thanks for the question. I think I used to also try at the early times. I write just 100 word a day. You know, just 100 word a day, 150 words a day, and then continue the next day. by the time you finish on the fourth or the fifth day, you probably get close to 800 words. So you don't sit down and do 800 words one shot. Sometimes it is difficult. You got this mental block and stuff like that, you know. So if as you write, you can think about it, and then you add on, you add on, you add on. So once you have the almost close to 800 or thereabout, then you can start, you know, editing and stuff like that. So that's one trick that I use, especially when you are busy. Before you go to work, you just write 100 words, or before you go to sleep, just write 100 words and leave it there. And then, you know, I think the mind has such a way of doing it that you later on, when we look at it again, you can see how to connect it, how to make it better. But they must have a raw material to work with. If you don't have the raw material to work with, then I think it becomes difficult to sit down and squeeze 800 words in one go. May not be the best thing to do, particularly if the topics are not it's not an easy one. So that's one way of doing it, brother. The other way of doing it is to start writing letter to the editor. That one, it can be very short. It can be 200 words. It can be, you know, and 200 maybe is too short. Maybe about 300 words, you know. You write this letter to the editor and get it published. That gives you motivation. You know, you get it published once, twice. And the editor will also begin familiar with the name. Once your name gets familiar, then as you write, you will be they will welcome you more because they know you are a regular writer. I'll give you this comparison. Yeah, in the internet, it is not the experts that captures the attention of the audience. It's the people who write frequently. I made a comment the other day. There's one housewife who writes on education all the time, making comments on education all the time, and suddenly now she become quote unquote an expert. You know, because people think that she has got the capacity to analyze, to say something without even understanding what the background is all about. So I think that is another way. Write a letter to the editor, and that on that note, I'm quite happy with a number of letters to editor, which I check sometimes a lot coming from the Kuliah. I think that's a good start. But if you want to be a columnist as such, then I think you need to do it quite regularly and then start to submit columns on your own time rather than being constrained. So that, I think, is the only way of how to manage time. Now, for those of you who got handphones, I think it's even better. Yeah, while waiting for your wife to do shopping, you sit down and do some articles, man. Or the other way around, you know, while waiting for your husband to do shopping, you can write something. Sit down and write something using the handphone, and then what you call save it, and then go and continue again. So I think the mechanism that we have got now is better. And as far as topic is concerned, I've never run off topic now because there's so many things to write, beginning from corruption right down to pandemic. You know, something that you can never imagine before is coming into your way. So it really depends on what is the interest that you want to do as far as those topics is concerned. Sometimes you are right. I clamor to find out what is it I'm going to write this week. You know, but I think for now there's more than enough. You can write about Ukraine. You can write about, you know, Queen Elizabeth died. You know, somebody makes a fatwa. I just want to share that we cannot say rest in peace now. I was thinking whether I should write on that. Mira, should I write about that? Dia kata tak boleh, kita orang Islam cannot say rest in peace. I think it's one of the mufti. That already triggers my mind. If I cannot write in peace, then how come the Queen and the King go and visit this mayat all the way to London and spend time there when he could have said rest in peace and don't spend any money? You know, how is it some of the states, Pahang, Perak, Selangor, have half mass? You know, so these are the contradictions that we Muslims actually create, and the non-Muslim becomes puzzled. You cannot wish me rest in peace for whatever reason, but you can do all these other things, which is more overt, which is more expensive, and which is more, publicly sending a message of nations and states rather than just individual. If I say rest in peace, it's an individual. Now you have half mass, and so where these are things that I think we should be talking about, debating about it. Is this fatwa really about it? If it's, then I want to follow it, but the rationale about this fatwa does not come into picture. Those are the issues that I'm contemplating whether I should write about this. Somebody said, one mufti kata, you cannot wish rest in peace. Rest in peace is in English. In Bahasa Malaysia, I don't know what is the translation. What would be the translation in rest in peace? I'm not too sure. So these are issues that I think that is coming out very, very frequently that you want to get. I write something about, if you remember, about Sajat. When Sajat ran to Thailand, yeah, I wrote about it and I say, look, why do you chase this person out of the country? Although she's a transgender, but why do you make her feel no sense of belonging to the community that she should be with, which is a Muslim community? She'd rather stay in a Buddhist community and feel comfortable, not in a Muslim community. Now she's in a Christian community in Australia and she's okay. What do we do to our own people? I mean, they've got problems, but do we need to chase them out? Do you need to make them feel uncomfortable? Is that what Islam is all about? If you cannot welcome your own, now how do you welcome other people into your community? That is the big question that I think I ask. So this question that comes into my mind will normally translate into an article. That's how it is, brother. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you so much, Nancy. Dr. Abdul Hamid, if you have more questions, feel free to add or write in the chat. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. Dr. Said Abdullah Busari, you want to unmute your mic?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
We thank Tansri for the beautiful presentation. I just want to share my idea about the way I see writing for newspapers. With one of our colleagues here that is a friend, what we have been doing is that because we are young researchers and young lecturers, we are mostly busy with thinking about articles, research work, grants, and all these things. So what we did last time was that we tried to translate some of our topics that we've been ruminating, because we have several topics on several areas of research based on our specialization. So we decided that, okay, since we are not concluded the research, let's write something in the newspaper. So we translate that because maybe we don't have that capacity of transferring. What we are doing is that every research that we have their topics like 3, 4, let's write something in the newspaper. Then furthermore, we can develop the idea later. So I don't know if you have any guidance on this or you have any comments. Thank you, sir.
Well, I think everybody is free to write to the newspaper. I believe so. But you must understand also now, newspaper as a print media is going to be shrinking. Yeah. First, because of cost. Second is because of competition. All right. So now the print media are very, very strict in choosing what they want to publish so that they can also increase their business. I mean, that's part of what it is. So if you write and you think that will culminate into more quote unquote business for the media, and also at the same time convey your concern, then I think that's perfectly legitimate. Yeah. But if you think you just want to do it because you know only this much and you just want to convey this much, and if it's not of interest to the media, then I think they will not publish it. And then you will go into, Mira said, reject me, I loved it, But if you get rejected all the time, then you begin to hate it. You know, you know, once, twice they reject, that's fine. But each time you send, it's not published. You know, I mean, it's also an anxiety. You know? To me, earlier that when I sent it, does it come out? It doesn't come out today. Does it tomorrow? It doesn't come out tomorrow. Does it? It doesn't come out the next day. You know. Then you feel, oh my God, let me write again. You know, and then the same experience get repeated. But after a while, if they keep on rejecting it, not rejecting, maybe they just have no room for you because the space are so limited. Then later on say, this is not my cup of tea, and it's not because that you do not know how to write, but because your orientation, your interest, or your purpose may not be quite realigned with them. Yeah. And that's why I think in my attempt, I have this Iium berhujah. The idea was basically that to train young people to write, yeah. But there are not many I got, and I call berhujah means it has to be very intellectually what they call argued. That's why I use the word berhujah. Bukan Iium bercakap. Kalau Iium bercakap, they can write anything. So I want to show that we are also here when we look at very sensitive issue, transgender, whatever. There is a significant academic argument, intellectual argument that goes with it that other people will not be able to provide because they have not had the the breadth and the depth that we have got. That column actually is meant for everybody to write. But if there's no one writing, then I will dominate the the column as such lah. But I think we need to have that kind of a platform so that we can train people to write as a matter of a habit at the end of the day. So I hope I answered your question, inshallah.
Right. Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. Let's open one questions to the sisters first. I think Dr. Irna is already on the line. Dr. Irna, do you want to unmute and ask questions?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Tan Sri,
Yes.
and all colleagues. Okay.
How's Kampung Bantal?
Good, but still tired.
Something that you can write now.
Still tired.
There's a lot of things that you can write from Kampung Bantal. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
Inshallah. But I think it's very interesting and very tiring, but it's worth it. We already timbang the sampah, Tan Sri. Have the photo of evidence.
How many kilo do you bring?
37.
Huh?
37.
Kilo?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, okay. My question is Sri about this topic. Okay, I was assigned one topic actually a few months ago, but the idea is in the head. But yeah, as usual, so many alasan. But I want to ask you, usually when given assigned the topic to write, in my mind is literature review. Okay, it's not a right approach to do it, right?
Again?
In my mind, at the first, it's like a literature review. That's make things like a little bit challenging. But to write an article is like an idea first. Then how to overcome this the minded of literature review to write the article in the berhujah?
Okay, can I couple your question with Brother Shakur punya question? How much of it is experience and how much of it is literature review type of thing? You know, I think people first of all want to hear your side of the story. I think that is very important. When I talk to you about people telling me their response is actually their side of the story, which I will not be able to refer anywhere. So it's a very personalized, real example that I then later on can use it as a kind of a reference for myself. Yeah? So I think your opinion, is probably what people want to hear. What has Irna got to say about, the visit to Orang Asli? Yeah, and everybody visit to Orang Asli, but I think we made a dent yesterday by collecting 37 kilo of wastage in the Orang Asli that we created. If you write your story like that, then I think people will be, I think, very interested. Now, it dawns on me, just to give you the background. We were in Ulu Tembeling yesterday or day before yesterday. We visited the Kampung Orang Asli. Yeah. Of course, we bring in all the things that we want to give them, the medicine, the blah, 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 everything else. Intention was good, yeah. But we also bring garbage with us. The plastics, the box, the everything else, right? Now, after giving the medicine, now the box will remain there, the plastic will remain there, you know, and everything else will be there in the kampung that was not there before. So unintentionally, we are polluting the kampung. So we decided yesterday we want to collect all the garbage that there is in the kampung. And I think we got about 7 or 8 black bags. And now I know this almost 40 kilo of garbage. Now, think about it. Think about it. They have no disposal system. They have no municipality to clean it like we've got. Yeah. They have no sense of what is good and what is bad. For example, when I dig up some of the trash air can, I find a lot of tins that is burnt. I think they probably try to burn this tin down, you know, all the what you call the cans and stuff like that. And these are the things that I think strikes me now, that when we want to go to the kampung now, we need to tell them what is garbage disposal all about. Can we bring things into the kampung without the plastic bag, or repack them if possible? Put it in another paper bag so that we spare them from this plastic. So those ideas are ideas that you can develop. Given your own experience now, I don't think there's any books about this. You can write this experience that we had in Kampung Orang Asli, and this is how I think we should make the kampung more sustainable by doing 1, 2, 3, 4. And your experience, I think, will be probably celebrated by many people. Of course, if there are other similar examples that you can quote, you can do it. But I think your opinion is much more solicited as you grow into the column. As they know, Irna ni dia specialize in this, then they will trust you even more. Then perhaps you can get invited to speak. You know, these are your what you call your channel to make yourself known, rather than just put in the likes. This, as now people know Irna got something else to say, they will invite you to speak, and you will then develop other means of communication outside of writing. I hope I've answered your question. But yes, I mean, the Ulu Tembeling punya experience, for me, I think there's at least 3 or 4 articles that come out of that. The boat ride is another one. Now, when the engine stops halfway, we don't know what to do. And another also very fortunate or unfortunate, somehow or other the engine stopped and it doesn't want to start again, you know. So we have to shift to another boat. So what do we do with, except for one person who cannot fit into the boat, what do you do with him? They float him. And he followed just the stream, downstream, and then halfway people will catch him. And that is another experience that I cannot imagine happening, you know. So yeah, look at your experience and see how you can use this to share with other people so that it benefits them at the same time. I would go for opinions and experiences rather than the normal reference thing. But if you want to make something which is challenging, make sure you also keep the evidence with you, because somebody will challenge you. And then you say, these are the evidence. But to put in the evidence, then I think your 800 words will be crowded very, very quickly. That sometimes they will also just delete the references because it doesn't bring any value to them as far as the column is concerned. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Tan Sri.
Pleasure.
Right, thank you, Dr. Irna. We do have questions from Dr. Abdul Wahid in the chat box, but I would like to call actually because this video is a memento, Dr. Abdul Wahid. So please unmute and share your questions.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. Thank you very much, Tan Sri. Tan Sri, given to the current issues we are facing, how do you see the future of the newspaper as a futurist?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because you know the paper is ending, and now people all are going for the digital, and also when you open the social media, everything is there, you know, the opinion is there. So the platform is very open. So how can Sri see the newspapers in 10 or 20 years from now?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the newspaper is just a medium. If the newspaper, I mean, what is important is the writing. Once you get the writing done, you can put it in the newspaper, you can put it in whatever other medium that will come that we will not be able to imagine. So to me, I do the newspaper more out of loyalty because I've been with them for the last 25 years. Yeah. But now they have got online thing, right? So in other words, they also have got an online version, which I think will substitute when the physical or the print media go out of business. So there's also an online thing. So the medium, I think, is a second question. The first question is whether you can have something being published in any form of media that you want. The skill of writing, I think it is more important, Jalal. Then you can decide where to put it. But I also would want to always keep this in mind when we talk about this online thing, which is fine. But there are people who will never see this online thing for one reason or the other. I can imagine. No, already there is a quote. There is a quote from who is that guy? Microsoft thing, Bill Gates. Yeah. Bill Gates, I think there's a quotation. He says, although you say no one left behind, but he says, as far as technology is concerned, there will be people who will be left behind. This no one left behind is just a cliche because the technology that you have today will not be able to reach everybody and anybody around the world. So there are still rooms maybe for other type of media beyond just the online thing that we talked about. I remember when we started early, we used to use even to mail them. I cut newspaper and then the people who writes to me will put in a simple postage that do not need seal. You know, you put it there, put a stamp and then send it to them so that they can also benefit from the writing. So the moment you have got the material, how to distribute the material is another issue that we can talk about. Yeah, but certainly you are right. The newspaper is dwindling. It used to be broadsheet. Now it's tabloid. It used to be tabloid 40 pages. Now it's about 25 pages. Very soon, I think it will disappear. But the skills that you have got will not disappear, inshallah. Then you can then use it for other means of media that you can have. Yeah. The other thing that I think we need to, I think we also need to have cartoonists. I want to cite people like our brother Ehsan. He does a lot of writing cartoons and stuff like that. That could be another avenue that we want to explore as delivering messages, which is very very subtle. But that's not my forte. Maybe Ehsan can talk to us about how to do an infographic rather than just writing the text that we do now. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. I hope that answers your questions, Dr.
Tan Sri, one question came to my mind is related to this question. How about for us, an academician, you know, because we are required to publish in Scopus, in the journals. And so if we busy ourselves also with the article, I also, you know, before I was writing for the NST, I have many articles when I was in ISS Malaysia, because there, you know, the requirement, I have to publish every month one article for NST. So that was the requirement, but it required a lot of time because, you know, I didn't have the experience. I have to really the whole month, you know, busy with accumulation of the ideas and coming up with a topic. So as an academician, if we, let's say, busy ourselves with writing the article, so how is how the university can, what do you call, give us the point, you know, the same, like, so how do you see, I mean, the future, for example, for the academician, this one?
Yeah, I think the university is also guilty in the sense that university at one time is very elitist. I mean, just like we in the university, do not think about the community around us. So does the community. The university do not even think about the community around us. And now we go into a very artificial way of recognizing why Scopus. I don't understand. I mean, why Scopus? Why QS? Why Times? You know, who are these people? QS is not even an educational business. They've got other business as well. Why? So we got sucked into this because we believe this is a way forward. So now, alhamdulillah, I think IUM is changing. We say that your work in social media, I mean, in the casual media counts, because we look at impact on the society rather than just the what you call the impact factor that has been told to us. So we need to make that shift, and the moment you make to the shift, then your skill will move at the same time. Right now, many of us are reluctant because we feel not rewarded academically, at least. But in the last takrim, they also have got this media writing kind of a thing. I hope it's an opening for us to make our role a little bit broader than what it used to be. We can still keep the scopers if you believe in them, but it's fine. But you can also do other things that probably will give you more satisfaction than scopers. So now we need to come and think about what sort of equilibrium are we talking about, right? For example, if I write every week, that means I got 52 articles in a year. Yeah. What is that equivalent to an article in one journal, for example? Can we find an equilibrium on that so that we can have a kind of a criteria that say, okay, for people who do media writing, this will be the equivalent to that one. Or if I can now, for example, the article I compile into a book, and if that book is acceptable, then what is it in terms of publication? So all those things needs to come into picture now, so that we can give the due recognition to people who have got different skills of writing. You cannot say that you write for the media is not as. Of course, you can write nonsense in the media. That's fine, but nobody will publish it. But even if they published it, you want to also have the kind of what do you call criteria of what sort of article this is. I saw one from siapa tadi yang kata dia mother dia draw cartoons. Yeah, what was that?
Norvina, Prof. Norvina.
My mother draw cartoon in Singapore for newspaper. So you want to open this kind of a thing, because sometimes the cartoon speaks more than just the 800 words that you can write. I don't know whether you have seen one cartoon that the moment you put in the vote, then the jail door opens and the prisoner came out. You cannot write that in an article. The moment you take the vote out, then the jail gets slammed and the prisoner gets in. That's a very, very subtle way of delivering the message that probably cannot be conveyed by text. Yes. So you want to open up this space so that the imagination of our staff go in. And this is why I come back to what we are trying to do in university. That's why we are telling now everybody, tell us what you want to do and tell us how you want to be evaluated. So for example, Jalal is good in drawing. I say, I want to draw. Fine, you can draw. And then how do you evaluate you? So in other words, your skill of drawing will be sustained. I was a good artist when I was in primary school. I won a world exhibition prize at the age of 12. Right? But then I got into a science stream that do not value that anymore. So that skill of writing now is somewhere. I need to find where the skill is. But I lost that skill. Now I regret it. Why can't I be a science and a good artist at the same time? Leonardo da Vinci, I'm not saying I'm a Leonardo da Vinci, but Leonardo da Vinci is a person like that. A good scientist, and look at his documentation, look at his drawing. But here we say, if you're a scientist, now that piece of work is not counted, because you need only to play with animals, rats, machines, and all the other things are not counted. So we are losing this whole idea of God-given talent. I believe that talent was God-given because I didn't go for any art class at the same time. So God-given talent, we have shifted aside because somebody say this is not important for science. So I think we want to come back to that. So when we talk about talent, this is what we meant. If Mira can cook and becomes an IT person, fine. Let's say she becomes a chef and also an IT person at the same time. And this is a real story. One of our alumni came back. He said, "I want to pay back to the university. How can I do it?" I said, "You can do whatever you want to do." And then she wrote me an article. And she wrote me another response. She said, "Tan Sri, I'm also a soprano B singer. How can I contribute to the university?" And that one, I'm a little bit dumbfounded. I ask people, in here, women are not supposed to sing. I'm not too sure. And I'm going to find out whether. So, but they can sing to a female audience. What's wrong? If the male audience tak boleh. Tapi dia punya soprano B itu is God given. Dia boleh mengaji dan dia boleh menyanyi. And I think one of the singer that was successful was also a Korea, I think, at one time. So why are we not valuing that talent that God has given her just because some people say no or some people say yeah? Now, those are the intellectual things that I think we need to come back to, so that this university will be very rich. When you go to Iium, it's not only about people doing the academic work, there are also creativity work, and that's why we're trying to encourage the mural and whatever else. I read somewhere, it said God loved beauty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved beauty. And why are we so ugly? In the way we arrange our room, in the way we arrange our university, in the way we decorate our place, sometimes it doesn't make sense. If Allah will love beauty, then beautify our place. Why is the toilet so dirty? Sorry to bring the toilets question again. Yeah, that I think will tell us who we are in that particular context. And if we give you this liberty, insyaAllah, so look, I can see from here now, Wahid punya building belakang tu has a lot of decoration, and the book is well kept. Yeah, that's why I put mine behind. It's so ugly. So we want to show that we are also in that mode of beautifying and making things happen because we are a Muslim and God loves beauty. And I think that would be a very nice way of putting it. I will just tell you also another story, that one of our brothers wrote a book and he wants to publish it. I say, okay, let's try. I am impressed, maybe you can do, but let's try another press. And now Cambridge University wants to publish that book. You see? So the moment we open our doors, the possibility, I'm not saying that Cambridge is great, but if Cambridge can accept our book, means our level of writing is already at par with the world. And that's what we want to do. We want to go on pushing the boundaries so that we really can make it in the world as far as our work is concerned. Right? Okay. Anything else?
All right. Thanks, Tan Sri, and thank you, Dr. Abdul Wahid. Let me highlight the questions from YouTube. Yeah, Tan Sri, we have quite a lot of participants in YouTube. And I just finished stalking one of our colleagues. Sorry, Brother Daniel. So the question is in YouTube. Salam Tan Sri, how much of the credibility of the writer play a role in the acceptance of his or her writings in the media? If yes, any tips for young writers who want to publish their writings? So Brother Daniel is from Salpet. So any comments on that?
Okay. Reputation does not come into the picture when I started. I don't imagine that I'll be writing for 25 years, honestly. And I don't also imagine that the kind of experience that I got is almost going in blind. We don't know what to expect. But certainly, I think your writing will tell the people the kind of person you are in terms of discipline. That's for sure. If you make the deadline on time all the time, then they know this is a person that is trustworthy, that they can commit on, that could have some reputation at the end of the day. I think it's indirectly you are telling the person what sort of person you are, and that's why I'm very very serious about this. Because if you start writing and then after that you stop and then you start again and then all those other things will tell people that this person is not reliable. Or kalau dia tulis pun maybe because of his self-interest rather than trying to serve a larger interest. And I think that's something that you want to avoid. People can read your intention. People can read your behavior from the kind of things that you do. I think you need to be cautious about that. So then the reputation, if it's called reputation, people will then invite you to write editorials. Although I mentioned to you 800 words, you get invitation for other newspapers to write more than 2,000 words, 250 words, 2,500 words. Because they believe that you can deliver given your what do you call your trademarks, what that you have done. So if that is reputation, then it comes later lah. It doesn't comes first. Of course, people like Nobel laureate. There's a book that I wrote with a Nobel laureate chapter with it. I'm happy to have one Nobel laureate, but I see his chapter is actually from a speech that was made 2 years ago. You see, mine I have to struggle and write. For his was a speech that he made 2 years ago. They re-edited and put it into a chapter. So with that kind of a reputation, I think your word is worth. I think sometimes it's quote unquote timeless. Then they will use and repeat it because that's the whole idea, to share the information. You don't have to struggle and write it again because of your quote unquote reputation. At least in this case of the Nobel laureate, Amrita Sen, writing about identity and stuff like that. So the question of reputation, I think, comes perhaps later, if at all. Kalau tak ada pun tak apalah. Basically, the niat is not to be famous, I think. How much famous can you get from writing a newspaper anyway? But if it happens, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't happen, it's okay juga. Doesn't mean that you are not serving the society. Doesn't mean that you are not given what you need to give. I think at the end of the day, your niat is more important than anything else. Right?
Oh,
okay.
Thank you so much, Ansri. That's very deep, mashallah. So I would like to open the sessions. I'm excited. Actually, we have a lot of admin staff with us today. So any admin staff would like to unmute your microphone, because I don't think writing is only academic thing. So please, anyone would like to unmute your microphone?
Yeah, while they're unmuting, I want to recognize the admin staff has written 4 books among themselves. Yeah, one is book on sustainable development. The other book is on what they call case studies of what they've been doing. I think they are doing another book on case study, and I think they're planning for another book. So again, I think this whole fallacy that only academics can write, administrators cannot write, is something that we need to debunk. Yeah? And that's the whole purpose why we encourage them to write. Anybody who have got a flair for writing or the interest for writing, they can write. And administrators, in that sense, has won over the academic. I've not seen academic writing any case books. They are doing, and now we are talking about integrated report. We are now talking about case studies. Maybe they could do also a better word for that. So it's not who you are, what you are. It's a question of whether you are interested in doing it ataupun tidak. Yeah, if there are questions, if there is anything sharing from them, is also good, I think.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Tansri. So anyone?
Assalamu alaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Yeah, I'm Tijani Ahmad Hashim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prof, thank you, Tansri. Thank you so much for this such an inspiring presentation. May Almighty Allah continue to bless you, Prof. Barakallahu fiqh. We have benefited a lot from your presentation, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khairan jaza. My question, Prof. Tansri, is regard to international media, such as BBC or CNN. So as far as we are concerned as academicians, what kind of topics can we send to this kind of media in order to get publication or coverage in the column? So that as far as, and one more thing that we need to take into consideration is that we have different values, that whereby our values are different from their values. I'm talking about international media. So based on the experience of Tansri, what kind of topics can we, I mean, can we send to this kind of media so that we can get publication and what you call the coverage from the column? Thank you so much.
Okay. I think international media, if you mean Western media or what you call secular media, it really depends on the, in this case, reputation. Yeah. So we need to actually understand what is that media is all about. For example, I read one to somebody. I think I did mention somebody sent me an article by Ali Marzui, I think, that commented on
I was.
Okay, I think accidentally muted. Okay.
I think his analysis, it printed in I think BBC media kind of thing, was really up to mark. I mean, he make comparison one to one. You know, I think that's a kind of writing that people like me will not be able to do, because it's very authoritative kind of thing. You cannot but to. He says this, for example, when what you call, when you say the prophet is not educated, is unlettered, he cannot read and write. Yeah, but you respect Shakespeare's because he does a word, but Shakespeare also cannot read and write in that sense. He's not educated, right?
Yeah.
And then he raised this question: why is it that you worship Shakespeare's and his books are all distributed everywhere? Why is it when it comes to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't accord that kind of recognition? You know, and he makes comparison again when we talk about what you call blasphemy and stuff like that. You know, that you cannot criticize certain things. But when it comes to the royalty in the British sort of system, you cannot criticize them. So he gave that kind of analysis, which I think whatever media will publish it, because it is very, very authoritative and very, very clear in his defense. He's not taking sides. It's not because a Muslim he does that. Maybe he does that, but the way he argued it is a very intellectually placed.
Okay.
It could be written by anybody that kind. So international media will need that kind of an quote unquote authority, but some media will just not publish it because they are biased. I think you need to understand which one, the left wing, the right wing, the center media. You need to choose them. But yeah, if you ask me what are the things that we need to write, I think we need to write the things like what is puzzling about the Islamic world now. You know, we need to have some analysis on this. I'm not good at this, but like I said just now, if you say you cannot say rest in peace to a non-Muslim, then why are we doing other things that is possible? Half-mast, visiting the dead, flying all over the place. So these are issues that people read and gets confused because we say one thing, but they say something else is happening. And we are quite quickly to make kind of make a judgment over this kind of thing. So there is no explanation, and that explanation I think needs to come from people like you, maybe because you have the authority and the reference to say this. People like me will just use my reasoning and for the non-Muslim they just use their reasoning because they don't have the reference as well. So that confusion, I think, is what I am very, very interested on. And this is where I think the university needs to play a role. We must play a role as a beacon that clarifies a lot more things. That clarifies a lot more things, which is not easy, which is not black, which is not white, but it's gray.
Okay.
How do you decipher this, and how do you make it happen? If you can do that, I would, be happy to sponsor it. We can start a series on this. How do you go into contemporary issues that gives a lot more ideas of how to solve or how to look into problems from a different perspective rather than just this conventional orthodox perspective, as it were.
Jazakumullah khair, Prof. Jazakumullah khair. Shukran. Thank you, sir.
Please do something after talking to me.
Inshallah, Prof. Tansri. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tansri.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tijani.
Welcome.
Right. Next, we would like to call Dr. Zainuddin. Dr. Zainuddin have been waiting. So Dr. Zainuddin, please unmute. And okay, all right.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
I
have a different but I think related question. Okay. This whole business about writing article for newspaper used to be like this. You write the article first, then you send it to the different platforms. You go fishing lah kira. If any platform gets it, then you get your article published. Can we think of it from another perspective? Can we provide the platform first? Yeah. What I'm trying to say is this: in most universities, the university has a quote-unquote newspaper like Makalah. In my former university, is a weekly newspaper. It's called Flambeau. I don't even know what the heck is Flambeau. So I said, apa Flambeau ni? My senior said, Flambeau is a burning torch. So that's where the newspaper try to share concerns of the students. The newspaper is run by the students, for the students. Macam Tan Sri, are we brave enough to trust and empower our student union to manage a newspaper?
Well, in USM, we have got a newspaper. It's a newspaper that is produced by the communication student, you know, and each time I praise the newspaper, they are not happy because they kata if the rector praise the newspaper, then we have done something wrong. You know? Because they want to be anti-establishment all the time, you know. But I find that the newspaper is quote unquote respectable, you know. But I don't know whether you are other.
No.
We have got the communication school or communication department. Do they have a newspaper?
Not that I know of.
So
hence the reason why I asked you this question in front of everybody. At least you can commit to answer, not yet commit to say yes to the idea.
Yeah. So in other words, if they come up with a project, and if this is what the project is all about, you know, in the context of what I've been mentioning, educating people, making good analysis, that newspaper could be macam apa tu dekat USM. Sometimes the main media quote from the newspaper, not because of sensationalization, but because of the thoughts that they put in. You know.
Yeah.
So I think this comes back to if you want to talk about this, come back to where we place this writing media lah. Kalau ada newspaper tu, maknanya we are serious now to train our students to write for the media.
Yeah.
Right? And if that is, then the kuliah may need to decide. It could be in the newspaper, not just not just for the department. It could be for the whole kuliah. It could be for the whole university. Even the university tak ada newspaper, you know.
Tak ada.
So,
I was thinking if the university has a newspaper as such, that like I mentioned just now, probably students from kuliah where you think the students are not creative enough to write, contohnya engineering, medicine, there must be creative students there. So if we have our own platform, so there is an avenue for the student to show their creativity. So it's a waste lah kalau kita tak buat.
Ya, tapi kalau student buat tulis kerana nak reward, then I think it'll be another problem lah.
Yeah.
Kan? And then kalau student tu just want to practice their creativity, you can provide that platform, but you must do a kind of a training lah. In other words, there is a validation, verification, all the processes that a newspaper, an article will go through as far as newspaper is concerned. I am open to it, honestly. I'm open to it. In fact, I was thinking next year, kita ada 40th anniversary, we should start at least a quarterly a quarterly report of what the university is doing. After all, I'm doing this for the Board of Governance.
Yeah.
That report I can recycle. Now we are talking about we are having training what we call integrated report. From that integrated report could be. So and then people will see that the university is doing something. It may going back to what Jalal said, it may not be hard copy per se. It could be also the soft copy so that it can be transmitted. Thanks for that idea. But if you want to have a platform, this Iium Berhujah is the platform that we have created. The promise is whatever we write, they will publish. Dia takkan censor. That I think is a good start lah kot, before you go into the newspaper thing.
In Iium, we do have news.ium.up in the chat. There's a lot of people saying about news.ium.edu.my, which I think that could be another platform we can leverage, Tansri, on campus.
IMU today, is that something?
Yeah, Iium today. Iium News today. Yeah. So maybe if Dr. Zainuddin would like to start filling up 5 columns, maybe. Okay, so but following up on that point, in my recent visit to one of the university in one of the rural area in the US, Tansri, it is very interesting to see that the students actually wrote a lot of things about what they visited. I mean, the problem in the society, and this is in the rural area. I was like amazed by all these writing skills. It is not academic as what academic writings, but it's really give them a room for their patience about the issues, about educations, about environment and whatnot. I think if we can give such opportunities, perhaps for all.
And they also do blogs, is that Mira? I was told they also do blogs.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you can be a little bit more creative, you can compile the blogs, make some editorial. That could be another source of information that we can refer to. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so looking forward for the platforms and Dr. Zainuddin's article. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next questions. Or do we have any more participants who would like to unmute the microphone? I saw a few hands earlier in the sessions. Anyone else? No. There's comments in the YouTube from Sister Naimah Munira. She said, "Thank you for this sharing session. It brought back the patience to write again. May everyone who is listening gain the spirits to begin immediately and the discipline to make it as a habit." Wow. Okay, so exactly what Tansri mentioned just now. It takes a lot of discipline as well. Okay, so Dr. Faiza, please. Feel free to unmute.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Apa khabar Tan Sri? Lama tak jumpa.
Yalah. Nice to see you
on
this.
I have I don't know whether this is a good question or not, but it is a question about Iium Berhujah tu. How hard or difficult or how easy for us academic staff to penetrate into Iium Berhujah, because I have heard, I think it's just rumors maybe, it's really difficult to send articles to Iium Berhujah because there are a lot of steps and I know the queue is too long and whatnot. So, macam mana Tan Sri?
Okay, it's not difficult. I think we need to, like I said, the frequency and the what you call the punctuality must be there. So, for example, this year I will ask Lan. Lan, is there any article? Lan kata no article. Then I will write. I will fill in that week. Because 1 week kalau tak ada artikel, maknanya we are not already feeling the obligation of writing a weekly. Tapi kalau Lan kata ada artikel. Okay, so I say, what is that article on? Dia kata it's about kebun bunga. Whereas there is an issue which is more pressing than that. Then I say, let's do what is more relevant. and do the other one as a filler. So the issue is now, how do you regularize this An berhujah so that the word berhujah remains? It is not about just reporting a story, but it's about really arguing a situation that you think it is important. If you talk about a report of how nice a university is, that's fine, but that's not what An berhujah is all about. So there's no queue at all. As far as I know, Faiza, there's no queue at all. In fact, every week, Lan will say, Tan Sri tulis ke? I say, ada artikel tak? Dia kata, tak ada. Okay, I will write. You know? So if you have got an article, you send it to Roslan. Roslan will convey it to me and say, okay, this week kita ada article, then I will not write.
Okay. Baik, if that's the case, we have to always check with Brother Roslan.
Roslan is the quote-unquote the gatekeeper.
Okay.
Because I tried to do this on my own, it doesn't work because my schedule does not allow it. So I give Alan, you communicate with Utusan. Utusan wants it katalah on Tuesday night or at least Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock. By then kau tak ada artikel, then that week punya column kosong. It tells about the whole university. It doesn't tell about the author. You know, the whole university. Takkan 6,000 orang pensyarah cannot write one article. That will be the kind of remark that I will hear. You know?
And Tan Sri, is the article that we should send yang berhujah tu, is it always has to be related to and around IIUM ke we can relate to tak kan?
Yeah, my other article was to write I think the two or 3 weeks ago to clarify what is the difference between a leader and bosku.
Oh. Okay.
Nothing to do with it, but just to give a clarity, if you want to talk a leader, now there's so much of bosku ni. Is bosku a leader? No, so you go into a literature, what is a boss, what is a leader, so that the people outside know if you are a boss, you may not be a leader. We don't want them to get confused just because, you know, somebody is called a bosku and therefore we need to vote him into election. And that's my point. So it doesn't have to do with us. It's not something to do with our own society. It could be, of course, IUM need to take a stand. When I say that, then the rector kata bosku is not a leader, then I need to make a stand. And I will say that, yeah, to me, it's not. And these are the reason why, in that particular sense. So we are not, quote unquote, just throwing accusation on people without supporting with evidence, as mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
You can write on anything, Faiza. I think many of the things that you do in education that does not relate to us, you can write it, but it has to be argumentative lah.
Yes.
It looks that.
Inshallah, I will try. Inshallah.
Yeah. So next article from you.
Yes. So 2 articles from education already. Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah, a few in the pipeline.
Okay.
It's just waiting for the green light to go.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Faiza.
Dr. Norwina there. Can you tell us a little bit about your mother doing this cartoon? Is she still doing it in Singapore?
I think this is before our independence. Anyway, but yeah, because we were, I mean, I grew up in Singapore and Johor. Okay. That's where the, she drew a cartoon, but it's all in Jawi. Writing was all in Jawi. I think it's Utusan Melayu at that time in Singapore. Yeah.
It's then independence and stuff like that, good.
Yes, I know. Yeah, she writes more about people, about females, about at the period of time. So you can see like a caricature as well.
Do you have some samples to show us?
Yes, we have. Yeah, I have.
I would love to see.
Maybe I can forward to you some. I mean, it was shown in the National Art Center before. Okay. Yeah, she's one of those earlier artists and also cartoonists. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for telling us. I hope to see one of her artwork.
Inshallah. Maybe I will email to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Looking forward. Looking forward.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Nurvina. Last call, maybe if anyone would like to ask any questions before we conclude the session.
Maybe can I ask, it's not something about writing, but how to respond to articles in the newspaper without, getting back. I think like just now, Tasri was saying, you like to get response, but sometimes when we respond something to article that could be, like a biasness to something, then we are actually giving that person who writes it a bit like a more ammunition or more publicity rather than keeping it low. Because I'm sure in articles there's a lot that is actually contradicting. Actually, I'm talking about, because my field will be on architecture, and we're talking about Islamic architecture. So there is a lot of articles that is contradicting, but if we write, it may have, you have a continuous kind of discussion that it will not end. Yeah. Maybe since we can. So we didn't write anything after that.
I think that's a good point. When I write or rebut an article, I normally do not refer to the person who writes. I leave the name out, or anything that points to a particular person, so that it becomes, we are more interested in the issue than the person. Sometimes it's a person that I wonder whether you read recently this statement made by the former AG dan mengatakan bahawa the Malay government has failed in the last election or so, and I thought it was not a fair statement. I'm just thinking about it, because if he is the AG elected by this failed Malay government, he has failed as well. Why do you now point a finger to a Malay government that has failed and excuse yourself from that failure? I mean, you are part of the failure. So why label it a Malay government? You are not a Malay in that particular. So these are the things that when I want to reply, I will not mention the person's name, but the issue. It could be any government that has failed. Whoever is appointed by the government, if I'm a rector appointed by the government, I have failed at the same time. Now, if that's your conclusion, I cannot excuse myself that government has failed, but Iium is doing okay. Because I'm part of that government, whether you like it or not. So while trying to move away from a racist argument, you actually get into a racist argument. I mean, these are very subtle thing that if you don't put it right, then this whole question of the Malay government has failed become part of your mindset. And you always then use this again and again and again, whereas that argument, I think, is not a complete argument when it comes from this kind of thing. The other person who wrote this in that particular forum, one of the MP, what's his name? I forgot. Tapi he's very fair. And dia kata, okay, they may have failed, but there are impacts on this. For example, when they talk about the new economic policy, everybody have comments on the new economic policy. But without the new economic policy, we will not have the number of Malay professionals there now. So they have failed, but in a way, they are also have done whatever they set out to do, although in a non-satisfactory way. I think more importantly, we talk about racism, and you always point it to the Malay government. But what about the supply chain that is dominated mainly by the non-Malays? So much so that Malays wants to do business is difficult because the supply chain is done. Is that not discrimination, and why are we not talking about it? Why are you not dismantling it? I mean, that is a kind of an argument that I think we want to get into but without mentioning names. You can just mention the issues. Mention him, you're right. Then they get Anak dia pula get excited because bapaknya was mentioned. Anaknya will write to you. Then you got, rather than one enemies, at the end of the day you got 5 enemies. You know, the whole family, and then you have no time to apa ni to fight that off. So you don't want to expend your energy on issues like that. Yeah, thanks, but that's important thing. But rebutting, I think is good, and that's what rejoinder and all the thing. This is what this article is meant for. Otherwise, you just get one side and you do not get the counter. And I felt this is something which is very important for the Muslims. That we are rather quiet on this. I sometimes felt that macam we have nothing to say, which is rather unfortunate if that's the case. There are many things that we can say, and we should put it on paper and you know, and say our piece, and let other people think about it, so that they have got at least an alternative to think about, rather than just one stereotype ideas as such. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Norwina. I believe that would be the last questions that we have for today, but there's interesting ideas from Prof. Hanike just now. Education issue is never ending, so if anyone looking for ideas, Prof. Hanike have just shared with us today. Right now, many raise concern regarding our primary school curriculum, too advanced, but even the parents are burdened. So if you want to write something, maybe you can use Prof. Hanike's ideas here. And if you are looking for platform, we do have Iium today. Sister Fatin shared the platforms. If any students or academician would like to share your writings, you can send it to iumtoday@gmail.com. Okay, so no excuse for no idea, no excuse for no platform. We have all the ideas and platform today. Okay, so I think that will be all. Again, thank you so much, Tan Sri, for the time and ideas. And on the same time, I would like to thank all participants and the CPD team. We have Dr. Ada, who stand by monitoring the Zoom and YouTube, Sister Huda, Sister Hana, Sister Hilda, Sister Nurul, and Dr. Wira with me here in Kuantan preparing for BTMC tomorrow. So thank you so much, everyone. May Allah bless all of you. And thank you again, Tan Sri. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu fikum wa ahlikum jami'an. May Allah bless you, your family, and all of us, inshallah. And looking forward for the next sessions with you, Tan Sri, in the next CPD training. And again, everyone, let's end the sessions with tasbih kifarah and salatu as. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladziina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Again, jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice evening. Salam.